Welcome to Bible in a Year with Scott Purcell. I'm so glad you're joining me. This is a daily reading of portions of the Bible, following a plan that will include the entire Bible in a year. And now, let's open the book and begin our readings. This is the reading for day 184. If your reading is aligned with the calendar year, in a non-leap year, this is for July 3rd, or in a leap year, for July 2nd. The Old Testament reading is from 2 Kings chapter 6, beginning with verse 24, through 2 Kings chapter 8, ending in verse 15. 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 24. It happened after this that Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, assembled all of his army and marched up and laid siege against Samaria. There was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, a siege was against it, until the head of a donkey went for 80 shekels of silver, and 1/4 of the measure of the dung of doves went for 5 shekels of silver. It happened that the king of Israel was crossing over on the wall, and a woman called out to him, saying, "Help, my lord the king." He said, "No, let Yahweh help you. How can I save you? From the threshing floor or from the winepress?" The king said to her, "What is the problem?" Then the woman said, "This woman said to me, 'Give me your son and let us eat him today. Then tomorrow we will eat my son.' So we cooked my son and ate him. And I said to her the next day, 'Give your son that we may eat him.' But she had hidden her son. It happened that when the king heard the words of the woman, he tore his clothes. Now he had been walking on the wall, and the people saw, and behold, sackcloth was over his flesh underneath. Then he said, 'May God do to me, and thus may he add, if the head of Elisha the son of Shaphat remains on him today.' Now Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him, and the king dispatched a man from before him. But before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, 'Did you see that this son of a murderer has sent to remove my head? Look, when the messenger comes, close the door, and you must hold the door closed against him. Is not the sound of the feet of his master behind him?' While he was still speaking with them, suddenly the messenger was coming down to him. And he said, 'Look, this trouble is from Yahweh. Why should I wait for Yahweh any longer?'" 2 Kings chapter 7. Elisha said, "Hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, at this time tomorrow, a seah of wheat bread flour will sell for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria." Then the officer on whom the king relied answered the man of God and said, "Look, even if Yahweh is making windows in heaven, could this thing happen?" And he said, "Look, you will be seeing it with your eyes, but you shall not eat from it there." Now 4 men who had a skin disease were at the entrance of the gate. And they said to each other, "Why are we sitting here until we die? If we say, 'Let us go into the city,' the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. But if we sit here, we shall die. So then, come, let us fall into the camp of the Arameans. If they let us live, we shall live. But if they kill us, then we shall die." So they got up at dusk to go to the camp of the Arameans. They went up to the edge of the camp of the Arameans, and look, there was no man there. Now the Lord had caused the camp of the Arameans to hear the sound of chariots, the sound of horses, and the sound of a great army. So they said to one another, "Look, the king of Israel has hired the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us." So they got up and fled at dusk and left their tents, their horses, their donkeys, and the camp as it was, and they fled for their lives. When these who had the skin disease came to the edge of the camp, they went into a certain tent, and they ate, drank, and took from there silver and gold and clothes. Then they went and hid them, then returned and came to another tent, and they took from there and went and hid them. Then they said to one another, "We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news. If we are silent and wait until the light of morning, we will be punished. So then, come, let us go and tell the house of the king." When they came, they called to the gatekeepers of the city and told them, saying, "We came to the camp of the Arameans, and behold, there was no man or the voice of a man there. Only the horses and the donkeys were tied up, and the tents were left as they were." Then the gatekeepers called and told it inside the house of the king. The king got up in the night and said to his servants, "Please let me tell you what the Arameans have done to us." The Arameans know that we are hungry, so they went out from the camp to hide in the field, saying, "When they go out from the city, we shall seize them alive and go into the city." Then one of the servants replied and said, "Please let them take 5 of the remaining horses that remain in the city. Behold, they are like all of the multitude of Israel that remain in it. They are like all of the multitude of Israel that have perished. Let us send and see." So he took 2 charioteer horsemen, and the king sent after the camp of the Arameans, saying, "Go find out." And they went after them to the Jordan. Look, all the way was littered with clothes and equipment which the Arameans had thrown away in their haste. Then the messengers returned and told the king. So the people went out and plundered the camp of the Arameans. A seah of wheat flour went for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley went for a shekel, according to the word of Yahweh. Then the king appointed the officer he was depending on over the gate. But the people trampled him, and he died, according to that which the man of God had said, which he spoke when the king came down to him. It happened as the man of God spoke to the king, saying, 2 seahs of barley shall be sold for a shekel, and a seah of wheat flour for a shekel at this time tomorrow in the gate of Samaria. Then the officer had replied to the man of God and said, "Look, even if Yahweh is opening the windows in heaven, could this thing happen?" And he said, "Look, you are about to see it with your eyes, but you will not eat from it." So it had happened to him. The people trampled him in the gate, and he died. 2 Kings chapter 8. Elisha spoke to the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, "Get up and go, you and your household, and dwell as an alien wherever you can, for Yahweh has called for a famine, and it will come to the land for 7 years." So the woman got up and did according to the word of the man of God. She and her household went and dwelt as an alien in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. It happened at the end of 7 years that the woman returned from the land of the Philistines and went out to appeal to the king for her household and for her properties. Now the king was speaking to Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, "Please tell me all of the great things that Elisha has done." It happened that as he was telling the king how he had restored the dead to life, suddenly the woman whose son he had restored to life was crying out to the king about her household and about her field. Then Gehazi said, "My lord the king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life." So the king asked the woman, and she told him. So the king appointed for her a certain court official, saying, "Restore all that is hers, and all the yield of the field from the day she left the land up to now." Elisha came to Damascus. Now Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, was ill, and he was told, "The man of God has come up here." Then the king said to Hazael, "Take a gift in your hand and go meet the man of God. Inquire of Yahweh from him, saying, 'Shall I recover from this illness?'" So Hazael went to meet him and took a gift in his hand of all the good things of Damascus, a load on each of 40 camels, and he came and stood before him. Then he said, "Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, has sent me to you, saying, 'Shall I recover from this illness?'" Elisha said to him, "Go, say to him, 'You shall certainly recover.' But Yahweh has shown me that he certainly will die." Then the man fixed his gaze and stared at him until he was ashamed, and the man of God cried. Then Hazael asked, "Why is my Lord crying?" He said, "Because I know what evil you will do to the Israelites. You will set their fortifications on fire, and you will kill their young men with the sword. Their little ones you will dash to pieces, and their pregnant women you will rip open." Then Hazael said, "But how could your servant, who is like a dog, do this great thing?" Elisha said, "Yahweh has shown me that you are to be king over Aram." So he departed from Elisha and came to his master. He asked him, "What did Elisha say to you?" And he said, "He said to me that you will certainly recover." On the next day he took the bed cover, dipped it in the water, and spread it over his face so that he died. Then Hazael became king in his place. The New Testament reading is from Acts chapter 22, beginning at verse 22, through Acts chapter 23, ending at verse 11. Acts 22:22. Now they were listening to him until this word, and they raised their voices, saying, "Away with such a man from the earth, for it is not fitting for him to live." And while they were screaming and throwing off their cloaks and throwing dust into the air, the military tribune ordered him to be brought into the barracks, saying he was to be examined with a lash, so that he could find out for what reason they were crying out against him in this way. But when they had stretched him out for the lash, Paul said to the centurion standing there, "Is it permitted for you to flog a man who is a Roman citizen and uncondemned?" And when the centurion heard this, he went to the military tribune and reported it, saying, "What are you about to do? For this man is a Roman citizen." So the military tribune came and said to him, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" And he said, "Yes." And the military tribune replied, "I acquired this citizenship for a large sum of money." And Paul said, "But I indeed was born a citizen." Then immediately those who were about to examine him kept away from him. And the military tribune also was afraid when he realized he was a Roman citizen and that he had tied him up. But on the next day, because he wanted to know the true reason why he was being accused by the Jews, he released him and ordered the chief priest and the whole Sanhedrin to assemble, and he brought Paul down and had him stand before them. Acts chapter 23. And looking intently at the Sanhedrin, Paul said, "Men and brothers, I have lived my life in all good conscience before God to this day." So the high priest Ananias ordered those standing near him to strike his mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. And are you sitting there judging me according to the law and acting contrary to the law? Do you order me to be struck?" And those who stood nearby said, "Are you reviling the high priest of God?" And Paul said, "I did not know, brothers, that he was high priest, for it is written, you must not speak evil of a ruler of your people." Now, when Paul realized that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he shouted out in the Sanhedrin, "Men and brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. I am being judged concerning the hope and the resurrection of the dead." And when he said this, a dispute developed between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, or angel, or spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge them all. And there was loud shouting, and some of the scribes from the party of the Pharisees stood up and contended sharply, saying, "We find nothing wrong with this man, but what if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him?" And when the dispute became severe, the military tribune, fearing lest Paul be torn apart by them, ordered a detachment to go down, take him away from their midst, and bring him into the barracks. And the next night the Lord stood by him and said, "Have courage, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome." The wisdom literature reading is from Proverbs chapter 16, from verse 8 through verse 17. Proverbs 16:8. Better is little with righteousness than great income with no justice. The mind of a person will plan his ways, and Yahweh will direct his steps. A decision is upon the lips of a king. In judgment his mouth will not sin. A balance and scales of justice belong to Yahweh. All the weights of the bag are his work. An abomination to kings is doing evil, for by righteousness the throne will be established. The delight of kings are the lips of righteousness, and he who speaks what is upright he will love. The wrath of a king is a messenger of death, but one who is wise will appease it. In the light of the face of the king there is life, and his favor is like a cloud of spring rain. Getting wisdom, how much better than gold, and getting understanding, it is chosen over silver. The highway of the upright, it turns from evil. He who guards himself keeps his way. This concludes the reading for day 184. Thank you for listening. These daily readings are made possible by your generous support of the Global Outreach Ministry of Scott Purcell. To partner with us and enable this work and others like it, please visit huttobible.com/give and select Go Pastor Support from the fund list. You can also sign up for ministry updates at scott-purcell.epistle.org/subscribe. Both of those links can be found in the podcast description. Thank you for helping us share God's Word.